Hi, I'm Shane.
And I'm Miranda. We're cheeky. Join us as we undertake our biggest road trip to date. 5 months around Australia in a 4-wheel drive.
After a year of closed borders due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we were finally able to travel from New Zealand to our closest neighbour, my home country of Australia.
Each episode will take you to a different region in this diverse continent and get up close to its unique wildlife, camping in the Outback and Aussie bush.
If you ever wanted to explore Australia, this series is for you. In this episode,
we continue along the Great Australian Bight to Ceduna, where we get into the water with some very playful sea lions and dolphins.
After time spent with our new aquatic mammalian friends, we headed north via Port Augusta to the Flinders Ranges.
From here, we hiked through the Wilpena Pound, a prison-like crater formed by geological barriers.
We head through the Barossa Valley, famous for its premium wine production, before a detour in the Adelaide Hills on our way to the South Australian capital city.
We spend a couple of days in Adelaide exploring the markets and the beachside suburb of Glenelg. Join us on Global Travel Stories.
In our last episode, we hiked the Stirling Ranges, explored the pristine beaches of Esperance, and crossed the Nullabor from Western Australia to South Australia.
So the plan this morning was to head out to the Murruwidgee Caves. We were making our way down the dirt road and there was a sign there that said, "Do not enter when wet." And then we looked up in the distance and we saw these rain clouds out here. They are absolutely insane. There's lightning and thunder and all sorts of crazy stuff going on out there. So we thought it's probably best not to risk the road out to the caves and the caves themselves in the rain. Instead, we're just heading straight down to Ceduna. We're going to do a little bit of shopping, and then after that, we're heading out to a place called Perlubie Beach. Hopefully the weather will be a little bit better out there, and we're hoping over the next day or two to do an eco experience that will take us swimming with seals and dolphins. So, fingers crossed. So we're just stopping here in Penong for a little bit of a leg stretch after the Nullabor, and this place is apparently famous for having Australia's largest windmill, and there seems to be just windmills everywhere.
After an afternoon spent relaxing by this tranquil bay and avoiding a spider the size of a hand in the toilets, our evening was spent witnessing a spectacular light show.
Before packing up and setting off, we were farewelled by a new scaly friend.
Wandering off, he's saying, "You guys are boring."
This is the most action you'll see out of him all day.
So last night we stayed at a beautiful campsite called Perlubie Beach. We were parked right on the beach and it was gorgeous and peaceful until a huge storm hit, and overnight it was thunder, lightning, massive amounts of wind to the point where one of our tent poles flew off. So that was fun, trying to, in the middle of the storm, put the flaps down because otherwise it felt like our tent was going to take off. So today we're heading to what's called the Islands Caravan Park in Streaky Bay, which the campers that were next to us last night said apparently it's one of the best caravan parks in all of Australia. So that sounds pretty cool. We're going to check it out.
What about this morning? Can you tell me about this morning?
Oh yeah! This morning when I went to go to the ladies' room, there was this big shingle back, and I noticed it because as I walked up to it, I wasn't even noticing it, but then it opened its mouth and brought out its big blue tongue. I'm like, whoa! I had to go get back and get my camera and get Shane to get his as well. And we filmed it, and anyone that tried to go in the bathroom, because he was right in the way of the entrance, he would stick his big blue tongue out and open his mouth, which was pretty cool. Eventually he did walk a bit to the side so that we could get through, but he was still on the defensive, I guess. But yeah, pretty cool morning. So we have just arrived to the Baird Bay Eco Experience, where they will take us on a boat and we'll get to swim with sea lions and dolphins. So, woo! And then afterwards we're heading up to Kimba Recreation Reserve, where we'll be camping for the night. And yeah, that's heading further up north, and then the next day heading to Flinders Ranges.
Baird Bay is a small fishing village located 50 kilometers south of Streaky Bay on the Eyre Peninsula.
Nestled among flocks of greater crested terns, we had arrived at a very welcoming sea lion colony.
Family owned and operated since establishment in 1992, Baird Bay Eco Experience makes for an incredible adventure, swimming and interacting with both sea lions and bottlenose dolphins in one place.
Alrighty,
Bloody warm in
going
there.
in with the sea lions. Miranda's already in. Whew. Oh, it's cold. Watch out for great whites, Miranda.
Forming part of a group known as eared seals, the Australian sea lion is now one of the rarest species on the planet, with less than 15,000 remaining. A large majority of the population can be found in South Australia, while others are found in Western Australia.
Australian sea lion numbers dwindled significantly in the 18th and 19th centuries due to hunting. They were primarily hunted for their blubber, which was used for oil, meat, and leather goods. Today, hunting is strictly prohibited. However, the sea lion population is still in decline due to gill nets and human-caused sea waste.
Australian sea lions are social creatures with complex communication systems. Living in large colonies, they often form subgroups that are more intimate than the bigger pack. In each subgroup, you can expect to find between 10 and 15 sea lions.
Departing the colony with a promise to return on our way back, we headed out to the mouth of the inlet to get up close and personal with a friendly pod of bottlenose dolphins. Alright, it's dolphin time.
Bottlenose dolphins can be found in both tropical and temperate oceans around the world. They are social creatures who love to play and hunt while traveling in pods normally consisting of around 10 to 15 dolphins.
Common bottlenose dolphins and other dolphins are thought to be some of the smartest animals on the planet, who are also extremely curious and often approach people to investigate.
Luckily, the species is neither endangered or threatened and has a healthy population of 600,000 worldwide. They can grow up to 4 meters and usually live long lives averaging 40 to 60 years in length. They are agile creatures who can swim up to 30 kilometers per hour and propel themselves up to 5 meters above water.
We returned to the sea lion colony to find a young pup hiding out from some bossy adolescent sea lions.
Fighting in the shallows, 2 younger males were driven out by an alpha bull showing dominant behavior.
Here, the alpha shows he is king of this castle, and all of these ladies are his.
After sitting out the first time around, recovering from the cold temperatures, I took the opportunity to join the dolphin pod as they returned, this time in larger numbers.
So we're in a little town called Kimber, which is about 2 hours west of Port Augusta at the top of the Eyre Peninsula, and we're staying here in this little campground which is run by the local Lions Club. It's like a charity organisation. It's a donation only campground, which is quite sort of cost efficient for us. Roughly works out to be about $10 per site. That's roughly the donation that they expect, and all the facilities here are quite clean. Kimber claims to be the halfway point across mainland Australia, which is pretty funny. So if you were to get a geographic ruler and measure across Australia, this would be sort of somewhere in the middle there, and it sort of sits at the top of the Eyre Peninsula, so it's great if you're heading to Port Augusta, or if you're heading to the Flinders Ranges like we are tomorrow. Cool little place. So this is my last honey seltzer from Lucky Bay Brewing, and this is a delicious drop. I don't know if it's going to be a permanent thing, but definitely worth checking out. So we are heading north again into the Outback. First stop here is Port Augusta, just to get some fuel and a couple of other things, and then we'll be heading up to the Flinders Ranges today.
It's kind of weird being in a town or a city, just hearing traffic noise. Not something that we're used to lately. But yeah, we'll be heading up there very shortly. After being greeted by ring-necked parrots on our arrival, we spotted a male emu with his mob of chicks wandering through the campsite.
Emus are endemic to Australia and can be found throughout most of the country. They are the second tallest bird in the world, reaching up to 2 meters in height. Although they can't fly, they can travel very quickly over long distances, clocking up to 48 kilometers per hour.
Emu fathers get the reputation of Mr. Mum because after the emu mother gives birth to anywhere from 5 to 15 eggs, she leaves to meet other emu fellows, leaving the father to sit on the eggs for 55 days until they hatch.
During that time, he neither eats nor drinks and loses up to 1/3 of his body weight. Once the chicks have hatched, he will then stay with the chicks for up to 6 months, teaching them how to forage and survive. Right now we are at Wilpena Pound Resort in the Flinders Ranges.
And it is happy hour. So we're going to go down and have ourselves a happy hour drink, and then afterwards they're doing a welcome to country ceremony, and that's with the local indigenous people of the area, so we'll learn a little bit more about the culture and chill out in this beautiful resort. It's already spectacular. We're going to keep our eyes peeled for quolls. We've already seen a bunch of emus on the way in, so hopefully we'll see some more stuff.
And snakes, because there are signs everywhere saying beware of snakes.
Adnya? Adnya? Matana. Matana.
Adnya Matana.
Adnya Matana. There you go. You didn't need the beard. The MHA is just a suffix word at the end of it that makes the word look really fancy. So it makes it look very good. So before we was the Adnya Matana, we was our own individual cultures. So there was 5. My individual culture name is up going towards Lee Creek, Copley, Nipapana, and Mairi, which is Koan. So we, as we was all scattered out and about, we wasn't a Adnya people yet till the elders came, till we all met here. And basically we sat down and we all looked at each other. Oh, well, I didn't know you were living across the creek. I didn't know you were living over that hill over there. I didn't know you were living in that, not in the creek, but in the gorges there, not far from it. That's where they all came together and all of them. We look the same, we sound the same, act the same as well. The language was sort of different, but then still similar. But then that's where they sat down and we became Adnya people, because we are surrounded by rock and a lot of people. So there you go, that's how the name came into it. We're the Adnya people, rock people for the Flinders Ranges.
That evening at the campsite, we got the feeling we were being watched very closely by a suspicious possum in a nearby tree.
So we're about to do the St. Mary's Peak Wilpena Pound loop right now. We won't actually go to the peak of St. Mary's itself. It's a very sacred site for the Adnya Matama people that are indigenous to this area. They have a Dreamtime story that basically says that the walls of the pound that we'll get to see later on were actually formed by two giant serpents circling each other, and the peak itself is the head of one of the serpents. So they sort of forbid people from going up there, which we are going to respect. It is actually a 20-kilometer circuit without the peak anyway, and we're doing it about 500 or so meters of elevation. So we're looking at around a 6 to 9 hour trek today, kind of starting late too. So we might have to pick up the pace a little, and hopefully we beat the heat of the day. It's supposed to reach up to 26 degrees Celsius. We've packed plenty of water, got all our safety equipment, first aid kits, the whole lot. So I think we're pretty much prepared. Anything you want to add to that, Chicky?
No.
What about MIQ? You want to tell them about that?
Oh, so the reason why we're actually a little bit late today is because I was up this morning trying to secure us a spot in a quarantine hotel back to New Zealand. We got very lucky. Some people take 7 or 8 tries and are still unsuccessful. We got it on our second try. I was number 4083 in the queue, and with that we made it. Didn't get the exact day we want, but we're arriving home in December, so I'm so excited.
Yeah, so just to give a little background on that as well, basically New Zealand have changed their rules with Australians heading over there because of a lot of the COVID outbreaks this year, not just in Australia, also New Zealand. They're being extra precautious. The travel bubble that we first arrived here into Australia from New Zealand has been broken for quite some time, pretty much since we left. And recently the government's announced that people that are fully vaccinated like ourselves can go over there for 1 week quarantine, which is pretty good. So that's gonna take up our Christmas. Unfortunately, we'll be spending Christmas in quarantine, but we probably need a week break anyway after this trip. It's been pretty intense, as you can see, just moving around, doing a lot of activities. So looking forward to a bit of a rest day anyway, or a rest week. You can see that Miranda's let me walk in front for once, and I think it's because she's sick of almost treading on snakes. What is it, 3 times now in this trip?
3 times.
3 times now. So she's letting me walk in front. Look at it. Clever girl. Alrighty, so now we're actually making our way up the steep wall. We've climbed a little over 250 meters now, and we have about 300 to go. Straight up though, over a very short distance, so it is going to be quite steep. Once we get to the top, we should have some great views of the pound, and then we'll be heading down inside the pound itself. You'll see what I mean when we get up there. Alrighty, we've finally made it up to the Tendera Saddle. Behind me here you can see St. Mary's Peak. We have been asked not to climb St. Mary's Peak, as I did mention before. It is a sacred indigenous site, so we will sort of stop here at the saddle. Then we'll make our way down into the Wilpena Pound, which you see behind us there. We've got 12 kilometers to go, so the journey is far from over at this stage. How are you feeling after climbing up that?
Man.
Tough?
Tough.
It's pretty hot. It's starting to get hot. I think it's due to get about 26 degrees Celsius today. Climbing up in the heat, it feels much more than that. We'll talk a little bit about the pound as we walk through it as well, but we won't give too much information. I did some research last night and it is complicated. So we might talk a little bit about the geology of the pound and how it was formed in an overdub. But it kind of looks like an asteroid has hit. It's like a crater, but there was no asteroid involved. It's just this big, beautiful, circular, sort of like a prison almost of mountains, granite mountains. But yeah, made it. Woo!
100 million years ago, sediments began to layer. Pressure in the Earth's crust folded the sediments, creating a mountain range that once towered over the Himalayas. Over time, the mountains eroded, leaving the crater-like landscape we see today. At the center of the amphitheater, the youngest rock layers are found at the bottom of the basin, with older layers on the surrounding hills.
Ikura was created in the Adnyamatana Dreamtime as two akura, or serpents, surrounded a hunting party. After a long and brutal fight, the hunters killed the serpents, which petrified as the surrounding mountains. St. Mary's Peak, the highest point of Wilpena Pound, is said to be the head of the male serpent, while Beatrice Hill, the second highest point, is said to be the head of the female serpent.
So we actually were reading the notes at the information centre before we undertook the hike, saying that it's not permitted to do this hike after dark. And we didn't really think much of it, to be honest, because we're planning to get back earlier, but we just saw a sign there saying they do spotlight pest control with firearms at night. So they come through here with guns and shoot pests. I just came past I could smell it before I got to it, but I just came past a wild pig, a wild boar that had been shot in the area here. And pests like wild boars and predominantly cats and dogs as well have a huge impact on the ecosystem. Not only do some of these pests tear up the native landscape, but also as well, you have the predators here, like the cats and dogs, that will get through and, decimate native populations of marsupials that have gone a long time without predators themselves, so really don't have any defenses against animals like this. So predator control in Australia is a huge issue. Cats, dogs, foxes, all these sorts of things are a huge problem, especially in areas like this, where we have endangered species like quolls, the native quolls.
Among the carpeted wildflowers, we stumbled upon a few kangaroos who seemed far more spooked than us.
It's kind of bizarre, right in the heart of Wilpena Pound, you've got this big clearing. You can see the walls as well. See how defined it is. It's awesome.
Inside the pound, the area felt like a dry woodland, sheltered from the semi-arid landscape on the outside, providing shelter for many native fauna.
So this is the Hills homestead, which was known as Glenelg. It was built in the early 1900s, late 1800s. The family had occupied the area in the late 1800s, and it was used as a family home up until 1929. Crazy. I was just reading there as well that they were saying in the early days that they had to build ladders up into the trees so the chickens could roost at night because there were so many dingoes in this area. It's beautiful. I don't know if I can get in though. It's locked.
Our journey back to camp took us by a small creek bed, a spring of life in the Outback.
Yeah, funny, we've got that sign here about these feral goats, and then there's one just over there. So in 1988 there was a great fire through here, and it was such an intense fire that it burnt a lot of these great gums down to their roots. The following year, 1989, we had a huge flood that came through here, and all of those sort of loose trees that were hanging by a thread kind of washed into this sort of valley here, but it has created a lot of habitat for some of the smaller marsupial species, like some of the marsupial mice. After a full day of hiking, we've arrived 20 kilometers. There we go. Time for a beer. What do you get, Miranda?
Grilled veggie burger.
I got the emu pie. Emu in a pie.
We departed early from Wilpena Pound with one last opportunity to view the landscape from outside the national park boundary.
So we're here in the heart of the Barossa Valley, South Australia's premier wine region. We did plan to go tomorrow for a cycle ride through some of the wineries, but the forecast at the moment looks like it's going to pour down raining. So we're going to stop in at the information centre here in Tanunda and see what alternatives we have. Okay, so we're here at our camping ground in Greenock Centenary Park. We're in the middle of the Barossa Valley, and this is by far the cheapest campground. It's a donation of $5 per night, which is pretty good for us, and it's right in town. It's only a small, quaint town, so we're not in the heart of the Barossa, but this quaint little town has some great wineries, great restaurants, a brewery, a whole bunch of really cool things to check out. We were going to go cycling today, but it is freezing and raining as well. 8 degrees, did you say, Miranda?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 days ago it was 30 degrees where we were. It's extreme weather and temperature change, but nice weather to sit inside and enjoy a glass of wine from the Barossa. Kaleski, maybe? Kaleski, is it? Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Check it out. So we're at the Kaleski Cellar Door here in the Barossa Valley in Glenelg, and we're about to taste some wines here from the vineyard which is nearby. It's a Chenin Blanc, and this one here, this was the old vine Grenache.
Good.
Yeah, that is actually really good. All right, Chiggy, what are you eating?
Probably food.
Where are we?
El Escanso,
In.
Barossa Valley, in Greenock. And I have a vanilla milkshake.
Murray Street Vineyards, and we're about to do a tasting, or Shane will do a tasting.
You don't drink, do you?
I don't drink.
Why don't you drink, Miranda? Tell the audience.
Ask me that question on camera.
She's just enjoying life too much. She's addicted to reality.
I just never started. Anyways,
yep.
So we're here at Murray Street Vineyards. It's rated as #1 cellar door in the whole Barossa Valley region, so let's go check it out.
Woo! So I'm just trying the shingle here at Murray Street.
Leaving the Barossa Valley today, heading to Adelaide via the Adelaide Hills. First stop is at a lavender farm called Lindock, which apparently has some lavender scones, which I'm really keen to try. And then we're stopping off for lunch at a German village called Hahndorf. Should be fun.
Passing through the Barossa and the Adelaide Hills, we stopped at the old French-style Chateau Yaldara.
Miranda, are you excited?
So excited.
What have we got?
We've got ourselves 2 lavender scones with jam and cream.
Scones?
And lavender hot chalk.
Scones.
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 Not scones.
Scones.
Okay. How's this going, Jiggy?
Delicious.
Delicious. Rum, rum, rum. Yum, yum, yummity, yum. Can you taste the lavender?
A little bit. I think. So I'm really excited. We just saw the superb fairy wren, which is this cute little fairy wren, which was actually voted Australian's Bird of the Year for 2021. So pretty cool. The Melba's Chocolate Factory, and just have a look. It's like Santa's workshop.
Good.
Chocolate.
This is Miranda's heaven. There's actually a lot here. This is bigger than I thought. A speckled frog. You like that one?
Yeah, this one. Just like the real thing. Wir sind jetzt in Hahndorf angekommen. Es ist wie ein kleines Stück von Deutschland hier in Australien. Also wir gehen jetzt für einen Spaziergang, um den Dorf zu erkunden.
Warte, wir sprechen Deutsch?
Ja klar, los geht's!
The first group of Lutherans from Prussia, modern northern Germany and Poland, arrived in 1838 with the financial assistance of the Emigration Fund. The majority moved from Adelaide to the Barossa Valley and settlements in the hills such as Hahndorf, living in socially closed communities until 1842 and did not participate in government until 15 years later.
Let's breathe strong. Utter delight. Truffle cheddar toasty. We just ate.
I know, but it sounds so good.
Jesus, Chicky, Jesus.
Alrighty, so we are in the city of Adelaide, also known as Adelaide, capital of South Australia. Bit of a down day today. We are going to check out the city markets, but most of the day will be spent editing some videos for you guys.
So bizarre. It is a wall of little matchbox cars here in the car park.
Alrighty, so we're about to enter into Adelaide Central Markets, and as is the way or the custom here in South Australia, masks on, of course. Let's check it out.
What do you think of these markets so far?
They're huge. I don't know how we're ever gonna pick what to eat because there's just so much options and variety.
Yeah, it is a difficult decision. There is a lot of different kind of food here. I'm glad we held out until lunchtime. We are starving, but
gonna eat so much.
We're gonna make the right decision. All right, we're in Le Souk. We've got ourselves some traditional Algerian paellas. Miranda's got the vegetarian paella, and mine is the chicken. It's delicious. Ourselves some traditional mint tea with pine nuts as well. Le Souk. Okay, swear, last video from the markets. What do we get, Miranda?
Some churros with dulce de leche.
Dulce de leche. Churros. Oh, look at that. That face says it all.
To take the historic tram line to Glenelg now. We actually thought that the trams themselves were historic, so we were waiting on the historic one and missed the modern one that passed, but apparently it's just the tram line that's historic, not the actual trams. And the trams only operate on the weekends.
Established in 1836, Glenelg is the oldest European settlement on mainland South Australia. Today, it is a vibrant, bustling tourist destination due to its beach and many attractions.
So we're going on a little bit of an adventure right now in search of jacarandas in a place called Clarence Gardens in Adelaide, apparently known for the jacarandas everywhere. There are a few around, but I think we've kind of missed the peak of the season.
Looking a little dead.
A little dead?
Yeah, there's still some purple on there, but there's also some dead leaves on there.
Native to Brazil, jacarandas were introduced to Australia in 1864 and have found the climate very suitable. In Australia, the peak bloom periods are from October to November in the middle of the Southern Hemisphere spring.
Coming up in the next episode, we head to South Australia's third largest island, Kangaroo Island, where we tackle sand dunes and get up close to its abundant wildlife.
We explore its pristine coastline and spectacular natural stone structures, including the famous Admiral's Arch and remarkable rocks for the most spectacular sunset.
We put on our hiking boots and hit trails filled with wildlife, getting closer than comfort in some instances, before revealing remote beaches littered with caves waiting to be explored.
Leaving the wilderness behind, we visit the more populated eastern part of the island, learning of its early days of settlement and colonisation, before saying goodbye to this amazing place and heading along the southern coast on our way to Victoria. Join us on Global Travel Stories. At Global Travel Stories, we want to hear what you'd like to see more of. Please leave a comment below and remember to like and subscribe for our big adventures coming soon.